Hey everyone, I'm going to be rebuilding my truck bed fishing rod holder, and I wanted to make a video about it, hopefully give some ideas for people to make their own. So the way this works is in the bed of my 2004 Chevy Colorado, there are these snap spots here where you can snap in a 2x4 across, and you can sort of build like a two-tiered cargo system if you'd like. And I think those slots over there will you can lay them down flat. So I took advantage of the snap-in part, and I used a hole saw to drill a whole bunch of holes in this 2x4 here, glued in some PVC, and used it as a fishing rod holder, and it's been working great. I've been using this about 2 years, and I could use a few upgrades. I have these holes cut, or not holes, these slots cut in the PVC to make room for the reels on shorter rods. You can see these rods are longer, but here's a spinning rod that we're not using. This reel would sit right here in the little channel, and I have them cut on both sides for flipping them around if they start to tangle up with each other. But anyway, this could use some improvements. This was sort of an experiment I used. This brown adhesive is like it's Loctite construction adhesive, similar to liquid nails. Sorry about that, the train went by. And so this other stuff here is epoxy putty. You can find it in the plumbing aisle. And it comes in a little log. You slice off a piece and knead it together, and the two chemicals mix, and it solidifies. And that didn't work too well. You can see some of these are loose, so I'll probably remake it all with the construction adhesive. And these sort of half eye hook, or they're like conduit clamps. I have one on either side, so I can put a bungee cord through all of the reels to hold them in place. And that's not even really necessary. I've driven hundreds of miles without them held down, and I've never had any reels fly out. But mainly what I want to do is I want to make these PVC pieces longer, because what happens is, if you look at this, I bought two sizes of PVC. The smaller size is the same as this diameter, and then the larger one is still smaller than the larger diameter I'm using here. But just as an example, you can see what happens here with this. This is a Penn conventional boat rod. There's a big rubber end on here for comfort, and in fact, this rubber end doesn't even fit into the larger diameter that I'll be using. So maybe I'll have to use some of the bigger pieces like this. But the PVC is large in order to accommodate the size of the rod, but it's not. The rod sort of sits back at an angle like this, and with about a dozen, I think I have 11 holders on here. When all these are filled up, and a lot of the rods are doing that, this whole thing sort of leans back and starts to wiggle free. And I've never had it come out. Usually with a lot of rods, I'll put a bungee cord across to the anchor points to sort of hold it in place, even if it does fall over. But obviously that's not ideal. So what I'll probably do is make these PVC pieces longer so that the rods sit more vertically, and we hopefully won't have that problem. Also, this piece of 2x4 is twisted a little bit. It's a little bit warped. I think it's been like that since I made it, so that's not ideal. I have some 2x4 already. All I had to do was buy the PVC and a tube of construction adhesive, so this stuff works well. We'll continue with that, but still just brainstorming some ideas right now. I'll probably do a sort of, not a step-by-step build, but I'll sort of show my progress as I'm building it, and show what's going on with it. So I'm still brainstorming some ideas. I'd really love to flare the PVC to make it a little bit easier on the rods, but I use my fishing stuff. I don't really mind if it gets scratched up, but maybe I'll sand the insides of these a little bit when I make new ones. But that's another step. So I'll have to see how that goes. So right here in the shed, I'll just show the last few steps I did. Cut my piece of 2x4. It's just shy of 60 inches, and kind of eyeballed these circles on here. What I did is I put the 2x4 in place, and every 2 inches, or rather with a 2-inch gap in between, I just marked where the PVC will go. I just kind of put it on here and traced it. And I have them labeled small and large, because I have 2 different sizes of PVC for different rod sizes, and yeah, that's about it. Alright, the messy part, well, at least the drilling part is over. That hole saw worked really well, but all the holes are drilled, and we're ready to start fitting in some PVC. So I did some brainstorming and some dead reckoning here. So I'm going to do these larger holes first, and I just cut these PVC pieces that I got are about They're 2 feet long, so I think I'm just going to cut them in half and use 12-inch sections for the larger rods, and that's a little bit, it's going to require, I thought about going with 8 inches. I could cut them into 3 pieces, but, or maybe I'll split, I'll use a few of them that are a foot and a few of them that are 8 inches. Alright, got the first PVC pipe secured in there, and like I said, this is the large size of about, I guess it's a little over an inch, closer to 2 inches of overhang on the underside. And so what I did is I just squeezed. Actually, here's the stuff I used: Loctite construction adhesive, the 3 times. It's actually isn't that it's cheaper than liquid nails. I think this is like a $4 tube. This is actually an old tube that's been in the garage for about 2 years, and I pulled the nozzle off just to get on the inside and see if there was any left before I opened up my new one. But and it was still good. So I guess if you seal stuff right, it'll stay good. But anyway, so what I did is I just squeezed some onto my finger and just made a layer on the inside, and then I did the same thing on the outside of the PVC, and it made it a little bit of a thicker layer on the PVC. And then when I pushed it through, it hopefully it covered everything on the inside. I coated both surfaces to make sure that there was a sort of a mating surface everywhere, and there was a lot of squeeze out. I used way too much, but just for the first one I wanted to make sure it was secure. And then I ended up, actually I had 2 set screws. One I drilled sort of straight in, and this one I put at a little bit of an angle just for a little bit of different angled support. So it's been a few days for the Loctite adhesive to dry, and it is skookum as frig. I can't even get it to flex in the wood at all. So I guess that means my rod's taking a dive. I guess that means that the holes were properly sized, and I glued it in pretty well. And I just checked it in the car with the or in the bed with a rod, and this is actually just a little bit too tall for this big the conventional rod. It's not that big, but the back end handle is a little bit on the long side. But it didn't even touch the bottom of the bed through the bottom of the PVC. But so it's sitting up off the bottom. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it's a good thing, because having lots of rods bouncing against the bed causes this to twist over time. It sort of like ratchets along on the bottom, and we have 6 rods doing that. This tends to wiggle out of place. So I'm gonna continue with these 12-inch pieces on the large ones. I can always, if it's really a problem, I can always cut it down. I'd rather just make it longer now, and then I don't want to have to rebuild this later on. I want this to last forever. So revision 2. So that's about it. I'm gonna keep going with these larger ones. So just a quick intermediate update. I figured it'd be more efficient to drill pilot holes and preemptively put these screws in before I started gluing all of them in. That way they're ready to go. I can just take them down, and I did all the ones on the other side too. These are the angled ones, and these are the straight out ones going straight in. I realized that this is with a singular point of contact. It's not really imperative to have them at an angle. It's as long as it's skewed from this a little bit, so that we have 2 angles you're approaching. It probably doesn't make much of a difference, but just a theory to help prevent it from being able to wobble side to side. But yeah, so I'm going to start gluing in these large ones, and we'll go from there. Alright, plenty of progress has been made. I kind of, again, the last clip I said I was just going to put the large size PVC in, but I ended up doing all of it, or all the stuff I had. I still need 2 more pieces of the large size, one here and one here, which is just 1 piece of PVC cut in half, so that worked out kind of well. I had the exact amount I needed for the smaller size, and so I kind of about an inch of, actually I gotta move the tripod here, that's better, I can show the underside a little bit better. A little bit of underhang, I guess maybe like between 1 and 2 inches, just to keep the pipe a little bit lower, which I showed in the first one, I think. And a few of them I dipped down a little bit lower, kind of have the board in the middle, and that's because this one ended up being a little bit too high. Yeah, I think I mentioned it in the last clip. It's been I'm making this video in very spaced out sections, so yeah, this one was a little bit tall, so I dropped these down a little bit, and adding all of these screws at the beginning made it really easy to just wipe the glue on and then hold it, just screw it in really quickly to hold it in place while I was able to manipulate it a little bit. And yeah, so right now I've got all but 2 large ones glued in. I've got all the small ones glued in. And now I'm adding some. This has been a sort of a side quest in this project, was adding some kind of protection to the top of the PVC to protect the reels. and the rods too. And so I happened upon these at Home Depot, which are flanged washers in the plumbing aisle. These are advertised as 1.5 inch, and I don't really know what that means because this is you can even see 1.25 inch PVC. It's inside diameter anyway, and it fits perfectly in there. And I'm attaching it with some E6000, which is awesome if you haven't used it at all. Great general purpose adhesive. And so I'm just gluing those in. I've got a few that I just added, and I just have a little bit of weight on top there to keep it from moving. Just a little quickie update here. I made 2 of these holes bigger for this 2-inch inside diameter PVC, and just about to glue it in. And I thought, I added a third screw just because these are a little bit wobbly, and this is obviously a larger size. So, but what I did was I used a couple clamps to clamp a 2x4 chunk under here so that this will sit while I'm manipulating the glue or screwing the screws in. So, just a little quick tip for when you're building your own. So I don't really remember where I left off, but I think I just glued in these larger 2-inch diameter pieces, and they came out really well. So now I'm just using the pneumatic cutoff wheel to cut off these screws. I thought about unscrewing them, but I figured leaving them in there as an extra layer of securement would be a good idea. So I already did the other side, and I'm just kind of coming in at an angle. I'll try to do this with one hand here. Kind of coming in at an angle like that, get the screw off there, and then flush it up. So that's all that's going on here. Alright everyone, I think the rod holder is just about done. So I don't really know where I left off. This project's been going on probably a month and a half or so since I started making the video clips, and I've actually gone fishing quite a few times since then, and I've been using this, and every time I go I think of an improvement to make. So I think I'm just about at the final iteration now. So what I've done is I've added first I added these window latches. Try to get a good shot of that. These are pretty simple. They just have like an angled bar that kind of comes out to lock the window, and so I added those on the top there to go into this piece on the bed liner. And I also added some angle aluminum pieces just on the corners here to sort of add some thickness, and because the wood was compressing a lot when this was being used. So it was really skookum as frig now, really locked in there well. So I did the same thing on the other side, of course, but that's about it. The only other thing I probably will do, or I might do, is make some cutouts in the tops of the PVC to make a place for the reels to sit, but that's kind of a pain in the butt, and it's tough to get a good sort of finish on it on the corners to make it smooth for the reels. So I'll have to think about a good way to do that, or a way to do it efficiently. Of course, I could file it and sand the crap out of it, but that's kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm trying to think of a better way to go about that, but that's not really a substantial step. That's something you can kind of figure out on your own. But anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. Oh, and I don't know if I had that in the last clip. I added these sort of conduit clamps for bungee cord anchor points if you want to put a bungee cord across the reels, or some string or something, whatever you see fit. So anyway, I hope this video has been helpful, giving you some inspiration to make your own rod holder, or copy my design, and hopefully make some improvements on it. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.